Hey guys, today we going to tie a tube, and recently fished it quite a lot. Just a really simple tube like this one. This is a little bit shorter version. If I slide it on here, you'll see. That's how long I tie it when I want to fish small flies, or when I want to attach a tail to the fly as well, like a wiggle tail. And today we tied a little bit longer one, so we just increased the flash material a little bit to here. However, we're using Bauer Pike tubes in clear, and I think there are 5 in a package, 20 centimeters long. And what we use is around 4.5–5 centimeters, so you can at least tie 20 tubes with one pack. So just heat that up a bit. And now we slide the tube on top. You see how it's melting here. And this will really, you see that here, it's getting white. The hot needle is melting the tube a bit, and this will really keeps it in place when we let it cool down a bit. As tying thread, we're using a Vivis, is it? No, this is actually a UTC. GSP thread, 100 denier. But I will put links in the description of each product I use. Take a little bit Minuteman for the start to hold the thread in place. On tubes it's quite important to use some super glue, so not everything is spinning around. Like that. And then the tubes itself, it's just 5 materials, really simple to tie, but yeah, quite efficient, especially in winter. So we start with the Textreme Chenille. I think it's a Textreme Holographic Large UV Black. But as I said before, just place the links in the description, and we just tie it down and just wind it around. It's just I'll show you in a second what we're creating here, a little bit of volume, and this really keeps the tube open here, so it's easier for us to get the leader, the pike leader, later through the tube. Like that, and then we catch it with the thread and just trim it. Secure it with a little bit of super glue. If you ever try out this Gulf super glue and you've used Zpoxy before, you will realize that the Zpoxy dries in way quicker, and the Gulf is lasting quite long. I think I never tied longer than 4 weeks with the Zpoxy bottle, and Gulf you can easily use for 2–3 months without it drying in. However, we got the Chenille now here in place, and then we lay a little bit of black bucktail on top. You really don't need super long bucktail here, as it's just for distributing the flash of the tube around and just keeping the volume in the beginning a bit. Just tie it in reverse, and then we move it with our fingers around the tube. Now everything is covered. and then we can just tighten it. We take a push tool and reverse the bucktail. You can tie on top of it. It's just for creating the volume at the head section. And by doing it reverse, it is easy in the beginning to distribute the bucktail around the tube. So now you see it's all evenly around the whole tube, and that's probably the most difficult thing when tying a tube. Then we take flash. This here is Hedron Flashabou and Holographic Black and the usual black, Magnum size, and yeah, just mix them up so you just get a little bit different different colors or shades in my flash material, and I don't have to bother to mix them for each fly. So what we do then, we taper it a little bit and see which length we want. Around this length would be good. So we tie it in. Spin the bobbin a little bit counterclockwise so the thread is falling back to my fingers again. Makes tying a little bit easier. Like that. Take another bunch and tie it in on the underside. Just reverse the flash material. And tie it down. And you see now, this is kind of the length of our tube, so quite a long flash material hook will be here. And we just continue this step a few times. So to get a little bit denser tail and not only like 4 or 5 flash fibers sitting in the back. We taper it again, the material, and you now taper it a little bit so you're not going all the way to the back. So we just build up taper slowly while tying that in, like that. You can also use a push tool here if you want, if it feels easier for you. And we secure it with a little bit of super glue, and then there's the last bit of flash coming. Just not much, it's really just to build up taper. Maybe 10 strings, enough for the whole tube, and we tie it in 50-50 now. And as longer the tube shall be, more often you have to repeat this step, just so you build up your taper slowly. With a shorter tube, I only do it like 2 times. So now we see we get all this nice tapered all the way to the tail, and now we can actually form the head section, and then the tube is already done. So what we do now, we take a mixture of different flashes. This one here, I pre-mixed it already. This is the Hedron Flash, the original one, and in black, and it's mixed with Pike Monkey Black. So we got this little color effect in it. Pike Monkey Twisted Flash it is. And then we put it in half, and then we slightly pinch this a little bit higher, so we have different lengths now, and just cut it. So we have now two pieces, a longer and a shorter one, so we can actually taper our head a little bit. I'll just place it on the table and just taper the edges or the ends of the flash a little bit on the table. You don't see that, and then sorry for that. And then we get just a dubbing loop in here. And then we place our material in here. You can see that like that. The longer ones here, the shorter ones here, so we can really shape our head and just distribute it in the dubbing loop. Like that. And then we spin it, just get the bobbin out of the wires. You can just move it all the way to the front of the tube needle, and we just spin it. Don't spin it too much, because then it tightens really. Now it's the fibers are sticking still quite loose in it, and it's really easy to brush out the trapped flash fibers without losing that much hair or that much fibers. And then you can spin it tight, and this ensures that you have a really nice flash brush here, which you can tie in, and it looks just nice and clean. So when we tie this in, we slide this back. You can moisten your fingers a bit if you want, and just slide that back here. Makes it a little bit easier, and then we just work the flash brush around the tube. Like that. So we tied our flash brush off now, and just go over it with a few wraps to secure everything like that. And we see a few loose hairs trapped, and you just go a few fibers are trapped, and you just go with the scissor through it, so you don't tangle up the flash material, and all the fibers stay straight and don't get curly. Just take a sharp scissor, go through it like that. And now you see already that we have quite a voluminous head, but it's still a really light fly. You can easily cast it, but it pushes a little bit of water, and that's quite nice to have. Then we take some of the Pike Monkey craft fur. Really good craft fur material with quite long hairs. In my opinion, even longer than the Hairline Extra Select craft fur, so really good material. Just cut a bunch and brush it out. And you see the lengths of the fibers. That's quite good for craft fur. We want the head around that length. So we just trim it a little bit. Just 1-2 loose wraps, and then we can work the material around the tube. Looks good already. And then we just tighten it down. Again, you can use your push tool here. And then depends on what kind of head you want to do. You can tie either in front of it, you can tie on top of it, or you just hide your thread in the craft burr. We just tie on top of it as we're doing an epoxy head, which is quite nice with these tube slides. Really durable head, looks cool, gives a little bit of weight to the head as well. So we just finished this piece now off with some super glue. Quite a good amount. This has to be really durable, and as we want to put our eyes on there to get them already in shape, like that. 1, 2, and now you want to place the eyes so that the if you do now epoxy head, it's going really over into the shape of the head, and not that you have the head and then you have a round epoxy head. So just put the eyes a little bit into the material, like let's say half of the eye is in the material and half of the eye is on the tube, so we even hide the thread wraps and get a really cool finish. So the epoxy I got in my bag, so it's getting a little bit warm. And we are using this Loon epoxy mixing cup. Quite nice, made from silicone, nothing sticks in it. Keeps life simple. And here we use the Zpoxy and some, how is it called, Loon Outdoors Midnight color powder. So mix the epoxy now. And we just take our little flamethrower and just heating it up a short amount so it gets a little bit more liquid and easier to work with than the bubbles are getting out. I see now it's really nicely running. Maybe just work the epoxy in here. Get a second clamp in here so get the flash material not tangling into our epoxy, just to secure it a little bit. It's a 5-minute epoxy, so you got a little bit of time working with it. This one is quite old, so it's not that good as it's a little bit sticky, but like that. That looks good. Now we can just need to turn it a bit till it dries off. I will fast forward that and just check that the eyes are in place. That looks good. And now we just keep on turning it the 3 minutes till it's dry, and I'll fast forward that. So I can check now in my my mixing cup that the epoxy is getting a little bit stiffer, more rubber-like, because it starts drying. And what we do then is we loosen the clamps here and just pull the fibers here a little bit up into the epoxy, so we're creating more volume with the head of the fly. Like that, and now you have a really nice voluminous head, which is giving you quite a little bit of pushing. Oh, it's pushing the water quite a little bit, and got a long tail which is moving nicely. And yeah, just let it dry a little bit more. So our epoxy head is dried, and you see now we got a really nice smooth head, and looks really cool, and gives a little bit of weight to the head. Then you can use scissors or whatever you just got, close it onto the needle, and then you can slide the tube off. You can also use scissors, just don't use your good tying scissors. And then we got a really nice tube fly here, fleshy tube fly, which is 20 centimeters long. So that's the one I fish without a tail. Still easy to cast, hardly any material, I mean you can look through it, but in the water it looks quite nice. And the short one is not much shorter, but it's like 17 centimeters. But you see there's less tail in it, and then we can put a dragon tail or wiggle tail behind it. So little trick, when you want to get a really clean tube head, you can cut it off and burn it. But the easiest way is just take a knife and then just cut it, and you got a really nice and clean tube head.